Good afternoon. My name is Connie Boyer, Mayor of Fairfield, and it is July 25th, 2025. And today I've got Ed Malloy, past mayor and current executive director of Grow Fairfield, or what we commonly used to know it as Fairfield Economic Development Situation. Fairfield Economic Development Association. Anyway, I was getting ahead of myself. Today we're just going to talk about housing.
Great.
And what's been going on, because there's a lot going on, and I really wanted Ed to come in and because they're really leading the charge. I mean, the city and FEDA have been working together, for the last several years, but things are really coming to a head. So we've got several things that we want to talk about. Which one do you want to talk about first?
Let's do overview, and
Okay.
then we'll talk about the neighborhood revitalization, which
Okay.
means the infill housing that's coming in. And then we'll maybe finish up with our recent visit from the Kading Properties company, which was very exciting. They spent 6 or 7 hours here looking at our community as a possible place to develop their great product. Yes, I mean, when I took the position about a year and a half ago, you and I and others got together and really wanted to work closely to move the housing initiatives along. And, generally, the big piece of this is the new subdivision called Sunrise Trail off of Libertyville Road, just behind the child care center, which was just a really perfect, beautiful site for a new housing development. And, we've had some good developers here who've been busy over the last decade or so, thinking of Martin Brett. But, we really haven't had kind of a big open initiative to make lots available for new building. So we went through the design process in 2024, and the city completed their new urban renewal plan that included our subdivision and created a TIF for that project. So that was accomplished last year, and then this year we got to a stage where in the early spring there was a bid letting that went out for the infrastructure and the road system that's going in there. And the contractor is, I think, starting as we speak. So we're hoping maybe by the end of the year we have everything laid out underground and some roads on top so that we can start to market the lots themselves and start building next year.
That's exciting.
Yeah. I was just mentioning to you that there was a story about that in the paper last night in the Southeast Iowa Union, and I had 2 local contractors in my office this morning who were interested in buying lots. So there are people
awesome.
really thinking that they've got an opportunity there, and we know they do. One of the other major areas that we discussed was the importance of our inner neighborhoods and taking advantage of available lots that we can put homes on for infill development. The city had 4 vacant properties in their inventory that we ended up purchasing, and we began a project of bringing new homes to those lots. And one of them is on the corner of 7th Street in West Jackson. That's South 7th Street in West Jackson, and then the other is on South 6th and Monroe. We like the product that Habitat for Humanity has been using for the last 3 years for their home program, and those are homes that are produced by Iowa Prison Industries at the Newton Correctional Facility. It's a minimum security facility. They've had a program for about 8 years where they build the homes on site. Went up and visited that. There are 24 site areas where they're building 24 separate homes. They produce about 35 to 40 a year, and they're distributed all over the state. It's a very cool program. There's 1,200 square feet, 25 by 50. They have a specially designed trailer that brings in the home in one piece, and basically, hydraulics up and over onto the foundation, and then down, and then secured, and then very few things left to construct. But whatever concrete work you're going to do, we're planning to build a 2-car garage at both locations. Those will be going up in within the next month. And then you put in the flooring and appliances and all the hookups We put in a 5-foot crawl space under each of these that are sealed and dry. So
it wasn't a full basement.
it wasn't a full basement, but it looked pretty deep.
It looked
didn't
full.
Yeah.
I thought it
yeah.
was a full basement.
Everybody's
Oh,
pretty
interesting.
impressed when they go into that space and go, you know what, this is not livable, but it's usable.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So you got local contractors to do the garages and finish the flooring
Exactly.
and okay.
yes, yes. We've also applied for a workforce housing tax credit grant. Within the application, you basically apply for 5 units, whether they're single or even duplexes, things like that. So we've targeted the other 3 lots that we bought that are referred to as the Logan lots. They're on 5th Street behind the Logan apartment building. And then 2 model homes for the Sunrise Trail Subdivision. So if we receive those tax credits, we'll be very active next year on all 5 of those.
Yeah.
So we're hoping for that as well.
Each of those tax credits worth close to
30,000.
$30,000, right? Yeah, 30,000.
And the concept of the neighborhood revitalization program, when we really started down this road, as you and I know, we held seminars and trainings for our local contractors, and we wanted their feedback about what it was they needed to make those kinds of investments themselves to build a small home from scratch. And I think we learned that it's challenging, and there's just with the cost of the cost of interest right now, but also the cost of materials, building materials, it's very difficult to build at a reasonable price per square foot for them to make a profit. One of the things that we have been working on to address that is FIDA has applied to form a new nonprofit 501c3 that we will dedicate to economic development, but with a real main focus on housing. And then as we work to define incentives that the city can provide through policy for local builders, whether it's help with the demolition of an old building, or if it's a cash incentive when a single family home is completed, we want to continue going that direction because we want to continue to support our local builders and contractors, and maybe develop a little bit more of an industry here for building new homes. So we want to see those types of homes considered and built on those available lots. And we also will continue to work with the Homes for Iowa product.
Great. And we should also say, and I think we've said this before, but a few years ago we did the housing study. In that housing study, they're talking about we need to tear down 10 houses every year.
Yeah.
And over the next 10 years, we need like 200 new homes.
Right.
That's just to keep up.
Yeah.
That's not getting ahead.
Right.
So much to be done.
Yeah.
So let's talk about thriving communities, what that was, and why we applied for it, and how that would help us.
Okay. So Iowa Thriving Communities was a program that Iowa Economic Development Authority and the Iowa Finance Authority designed to be kind of a recognition for communities that are proactive and have the infrastructure in place to quickly increase housing in their communities. So there's a deep application process for this, as there always is, and this one in particular, we're recognizing that we do have a lot of moving parts right now with the things that we've just briefly discussed, that this would be a good time for us to make that application. The designation is nice if they think, yes, you qualify for what we define as a thriving community, but what it gives access to the builders and developers is access to points on applications, grant applications, for low-income housing tax credits or workforce housing tax credits. This this system of applying in a very competitive way for these tax credit designations, they generally get down to a difference of 1 or 2 points on the application. The application total points might be 55 points. The award might be at 50 points, but they just beat out somebody at 49. So the 2 extra points for one designation and 5 extra points for another designation on these 2 applications is a huge lift to attract developers to your community or reward your own development community for going for these. The program is in its 3rd year, so watching what happened in the first 2 years, you can see it. Developers who get those awards for the tax credits are coming from those new communities who are thriving communities. So we're hopeful, yet we think we're going to hear next week, the final decision by the board, and hopefully we have those to work with next year as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so just to add an emphasis is you can see if you get, in your case, if you get 5 homes with
Right.
each one of those 30,000, that's 150,000
Right.
of tax credit. You can see really why that's so important to a developer. And it's a state initiative, and they have to, even though it's frustrating from one standpoint, they have to be able to figure out a way to measure. So all of it comes down to that point system, and being a thriving community is important now.
Yeah, the workforce housing tax credit, these are mostly all federal dollars. I know that the low-income housing tax credits are all federal dollars. I think that the workforce housing tax credits are, but they may be mostly. The state has $39 million to give out in workforce housing tax credits this year, and about $11 million in low-income housing tax credits, and those are spread out across the state, of course. But it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just on another level from the state, and again, we're going to be working with FEDA on this about what we can do with our own incentives. So the city has what we call LMI funds. What that means is low to moderate income funds. And it's a bucket of money that
Well, it's a bucket of money too. It comes off the TIF revenues. So
comes off that TIF revenue, and so every year we're putting that money in there. And that can be used for different things, but primarily for low to moderate income funds. For several years, we've given Habitat, the city has given Habitat through local option sales tax, $10,000 for a Habitat home. This last year, because of our local option sales tax, there was a lot of requests. One thing that we did for this fiscal year, is use our low to moderate income funds. We're using that $10,000. We're going to take it out of that fund, and so we're looking at ways to use those funds again to help developers, and so it makes it easier for them. We're also talking with Area 15 about the housing trust fund through Area 15, where people can get a no interest loan of a $12,000, and we're trying to figure out, can we put a little money towards that? The $12,000 doesn't get you very far these days. So if we can make it maybe additional $3,000, push it up to $15,000, and ultimately what that would do, and my understanding is most of those loans go for new heating and AC, where people just can't afford it anymore. So those are kind of the big 2 things that loan is used for. And then when that person sells that home, that money goes back to the housing trust fund, so it can be given out again.
Right.
So it's kind of this revolving loan fund. So there's some legalities. We're working and looking into that because we have state code that we have to follow. So we'll see where that goes. But that's another thing that's happening.
And that really, those are great dollars to use too, because really when we're talking about the total picture, we're talking about rehabilitation of existing structures.
Yes.
If they're worth that, so dollars can be used for that. The infill, whether it's incentivizing our builders to take the risk to build something on their own, or for us to continue working with Homes for Iowa, and then giving people the option to build a new home in a fresh subdivision.
Yeah.
And then that leads us to rentals.
Yes, right. And I just want to add too that right now we potentially, well, let me step back. The house that was on 6th Street was a donated property to the city. The gentleman who lived there, there were some significant issues with the house, and we got him into some subsidized housing, which was much better for him, and he donated the property to the city. So I just want to say, hey, if you got a property that is just not savable, and you want the tax deduction, you know, you can come talk to the city and see, does it make sense to donate that property to the city? And then we decide, okay, is it a tear down? And we'll pay for it. Because it does look like we've got potentially some dollars for tear downs. Is it rehabable for a rental or a new facility? You know, could we sell it to a contractor or a rehabber? So these are all kinds of options, and we've got a whole workflow now that we kind of understand, you know, what our process is. And but at any rate, you know, we've got homes also that are owned by people who live out of Fairfield, and they're just sitting empty. So I really would like to get those either torn down or get them rehabbed so somebody can live in them. But at any rate, so that's there, just so people know that you could potentially donate that. I guess they could donate it to you as well if you wanted it, but I don't know if that's something that you want to take on. But that's how we got that one house. So I just want to say that that there is available.
Great.
So should we just finish up with the Kading Properties?
Sure. So Kading Properties, interesting company, Iowa-based company out of Des Moines. I think they're 48 years in business, and they build what they call rental communities. They're generally a minimum of about 100 units when they build one. And they're privately owned. They have, I think, 20, let's call it 25 communities around the state already, Pella and Oskaloosa, different places. And they're also, so their model is to essentially make a full investment in the property and then manage it for its life. They haven't sold any of their properties over the years, so they manage it for the life of the property, and they're very good managers with, you know, lawn care, shrubbery, snow removal.
Yeah, they said they're meticulous. No weeds in the cracks.
Yep. When you visit one, you're just really impressed. They build them in duplexes, triplexes, and quadplexes that are all kind of connected together. They put in the infrastructure and the road system, and that's a big investment, as you know. So they're competitive in terms of the community that they will go to visit to consider, the next or a future development. So someone that we've been talking to for a couple of years, Josh had started talking with them, I think, in 2023. And they basically said, well, you know, we have a process now. They had just instituted this 2 years ago, where they bought a big bus, and a big, nice, comfortable bus, and they go to visit the communities that they will select. So this year they had 31 communities apply for their hometown tour, and there were 5 that were selected as finalists. And this was our first year, and we were selected as a finalist. And they're going to spend a whole day on their bus tour, and they're going to look at the total community, look at available land, talk to as many local large employers as they can, learn about the recreational and cultural amenities that are in the community, and evaluate it on the potential for investment here. And we were visited last week, so needless to say, they were really impressed. I don't know that anybody had really. There were maybe a few people who had been through Fairfield. They'd never been in Fairfield and really seen everything. So they had a great tour of the downtown. Terry Baker did a great job talking about our tourism and amenities. We visited the Masden Barns, the trails, the hospital, the subdivision, Cambridge, Agriplastics, Traffics Devices, and all along the way describing everything else that's there. Shared as many of the statistics as we could with them. And what I really was impressed with was when we went through the housing study 2 years ago, this came out loud and clear that many of our largest employers have a high percentage of people who drive from other places.
Yep.
Now, that's not unique to Fairfield. That happens everywhere, but it's the very high a percentage here. That was a great message, to come out again, to realize, that our market is there. We really do have a market for new rentals.
Yeah.
The other is the substandard status of the homes, rental homes that we do have now. That one is really screaming for attention at this point. So 1,000 new units would really address that in a big way. We didn't miss anything, in their visit here. I think they went away really impressed. But that's one that I think would give us a real shot in the arm if we could really land that kind of a commitment from a company like that.
Yep, absolutely. I think for me, a couple of those points were, again, from the employers, I mean, there were a couple times when they said, hey, only 40% of our employees live in Fairfield. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a shocking number to grasp. Another thing is they're pet friendly, which was nice.
Yes.
And that is a little bit of a challenge for some rentals here. People don't want you to have pets. I think the other thing is they mentioned, somebody asked the question about, I forget how the question was asked, but ultimately was how many people, like our senior population, would move into one of their units. And they said in their other communities, about 20% of their population of seniors have moved into those types of units. So that opens up housing for our families, if that were to happen. I think that would be a big selling point. I mean, I do know some older ladies who, are ready to go into a nice place and they don't really want to own anything anymore. So having a rent that's reasonable would be very attractive, I think, for a pretty good portion of our population.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that, and even if it isn't people who are moving out of the existing homes that they have, it's a senior housing product.
Yeah.
So, which we lack right now as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not totally that. No. It's just that it can be that. I mean, it can be any age. So, I just definitely think that we warrant that kind of a product here. Exactly.
Yeah, I think so too. And I just feel good that there are so many collective initiatives going on at the same time, because we need to send a message out to our community or people who are considering moving to Fairfield that we're going to have more housing options very soon. Yeah,
that's great. Great.
And I'll just say the mayor was with us for the whole tour with the Kading folks, so it was really a great time. Oh, and we had a tour, an updated tour of the Blue Rose Ballroom. They were blown away. It's going to be fantastic when it's done, but it's at a point now where it's really impressive.
Yep. It's exciting. I'm looking forward to that being open myself. So.
Yeah, and we appreciate the great cooperation with the city.
Yeah, well, it's great to actually see some things really moving and getting some action, because there's been a lot of talk for many years, and but we just couldn't quite get over the hump to make something happen, and that's really happened over the last couple of years. So it's just great to see.
Great,
so,
thank you.
Awesome. So we're going to look like a different city in 5 years.
Yes.
We hope.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Ed, for coming and giving us an update.